the ordinary Ghanaian benefits from this. In their mind, it is the elite that are beneficiaries of digitalization. They have failed to realize that the onset of COVID has brought a new global economy into force called the digital economy. That today, as a result of COVID, some 4 million American workers have decided they won't go back to work anymore. They are forming their own companies. And it's due to the effect of digitalization or the use of technology. And they don't want the same to be replicated here in Ghana. And so there's a need for the public to be informed about exactly what Dr. Bawumia set out to do, because the NDC has sent, as usual, its hawks, very ignorant ones, to insult and denigrate the whole idea of digitalization of the economy. So, without much ado, I would call on Dr. Gideon Boako, the spokesperson of the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, to do us the honors to take us through exactly what the process of digitalizing the economy is and how it's improving our economy and making it a better one for the future. Thank you very much. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Richard. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, good afternoon. It is an honor for me to join you all here today for such an important conversation. This interactive session with you will center on Ghana's digitization agenda and how it fits well into President Akufo-Addo's vision of building a modern Ghanaian economy anchored on digital technology. It is a conversation and political resolution that we must have as a country if indeed we want to be equally competitive in the global space. Thankfully, the current political leadership led by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is showing the needed interest and commitment to create a modern Ghanaian economy that can compete favorably globally and conform to the dictates of the fourth industrial revolution. Undoubtedly, the global development paradigm is moving. Some may argue has moved from the industrial age into the technology and information age. This transition is coming with its own transition terms, such as e-commerce, e-procurement, e-marketing, e-business, and electronic money. Not to be left behind is e-governance in the public sector, which is our focus this afternoon. And with it comes all the other interventions mentioned earlier. In nearly 5 years, this government has been pursuing aggressive digitization and digitalization agenda by using ICT as a tool to achieve better governance. The overarching objective is to get government public institutions to use ICT to enhance their ways and means of linking with the general public in ways to reduce cost, improve performance, increase ease of access and speed of delivery and effectiveness. It is about how government organizes itself, its administration, rules and regulations, and frameworks to coordinate and perform public administration. For many post-colonial societies like ours that appear stuck in the old and antiquated ways of doing things, Technological innovations and digitization are just what is needed to leapfrog years of public administration reforms that have almost become a never-ending business, in some cases even more bureaucratic, more red tape, more opaque, and impediments to doing business. Much of the public sector administration which this government inherited were actually set up as instruments of governance of the people by the ruling class. It is a rigid public sector, unbending, centralized, and in many ways slow in responding to public needs. And I must say, most of the public administration systems, even as at today, are pretty much the same, despite the interventions we are seeing. They all have to be fixed, and now. Following the brilliant public lecture delivered by the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, on digital economy at Ashesi University some 4 days ago, Ghanaians have had some reawakening on the potentials of digitalization and digitization for economic development. Embracing digital technologies means providing strategic drivers to create open, participatory, and trustworthy public sector to improve social inclusiveness and government accountability, and to bring together government and non-government actors to develop innovative approaches to national development and long-term sustainable growth. A World Bank study has shown that every 10% increase in broadband penetration boosts GDP by an average of 1.3%, and every 10% increase in mobile teledensity results in a 0.7% increase in the gross domestic product of a nation. This means digital governance, which will need these tools to be successful, is crucial to economic transformation of developing nations like Ghana. But the question is, how is Ghana's digitization agenda improving the economy? And I hear many people asking some basic and pertinent questions about the linkage between digitization and economic development, and I will try to highlight this. Many pundits and analysts have tried to either explain or seek clarity on how Ghana's digitization agenda is linked to economic management or economic development. While the theoretical explanations for the digitization and economic growth nexus is clear and established, the consequential practicalities of the linkage appear unclear to some. I will attempt to highlight a few of these. For instance, people have asked the question about how digitization relates to exchange rate depreciation, debt levels, cost of goods and services or prices on the market. In trying to appreciate how the development of digital technologies can help reduce the cost of goods and services, we need to understand how price build-ups of goods occur through exchange rate exposures. It must be understood that one means by which the currencies of countries become exposed is rising debt levels. As our debt levels and debt services burden increase, we need more foreign currency to settle our debt obligations when they fall due, if they are externally procured. This consequentially exerts dampening effects on our local currency's performance, leading to depreciation. A country with an increasingly depreciating currency has higher import costs, which is corollary passed on to prices on the market. So indeed, if you want to see how digitization is going to help us reduce prices of goods and services on the market, i.e. inflation, that is where I'm driving you to. Countries borrow because their domestically mobilized revenues are inadequate to finance critical expenditure. This arises from a highly informal economic architecture, inefficient tax administration systems, and smaller than required tax nets. What governments have done in the past is to increase the tax burden of the few who are willing and pay taxes, thereby collapsing businesses and causing unemployment. Surprisingly, despite the widespread technical and street view that the solution to getting increased domestic revenue is broadened tax base, successive governments have done little to stem the tide. The solution offered by this government is to use digital solutions such as the national ID card system. The beginning of this commitment is the aggressive manner in which government executed the national ID card registration. In furtherance to that, we have integrated the national ID and replaced it with the GRA tax identification number. As indicated by the Vice President, this integration automatically raises the number of Ghanaians with tax identification number from 4% to 86%. This has broadened the tax base and made it possible for many Ghanaians to be identified as potential taxpayers. We have moved a step forward following the Vice President's challenge to GRA to make the processes of filing taxes easier and simple to be done using mobile application device. This device is available on Ghana.gov mobile app, which is available on Google Play Store or App Store on Android. The Ghana.gov mobile app is also a platform that ensures that payments for government services are done electronically and funds channeled to government accounts instead of being pilfered. So clearly, we see the direct impact of the digitization agenda on the potential for Ghana to mobilize more revenues domestically without overburdening the taxpayer. We also see how this could potentially cut down on our debt levels and consequently help us to attain a relatively stable currency and reduce the rate of inflation. So what I'm saying here is that if you have a country like Ghana, where we borrow so much because we are unable to mobilize revenue domestically, our tax revenue is about 14.5% of our GDP. So once we get this tax revenue, it's unable to do so much for us. We therefore need to go and borrow money. Once you go to the international market and you borrow and get dollars, bring to Ghana. When the payments are due, you have to exchange cedis for dollars, okay? And in so doing, your currency comes down and depreciates, and the dollar appreciates. Now, once you have a depreciated currency, your imports become expensive because anytime you want to import, you have to exchange so much cedis to get a dollar. And when the imports come, because it's expensive, the price or the cost is passed on to the average consumer. What you need to do is to make sure you increase or broaden your tax base and raise so much revenue domestically such that how much you're borrowing from the international market is reduced. And that is exactly what we're doing with the national ID card by integrating it with the tax identification number and increasing the number of people who have tax identification numbers from 4% to 86%. You broaden the tax net, you get so much revenue domestically, you borrow less, and in that case, your currency becomes stable and your imports does not become expensive. There have also been the question of how can digitization help us create jobs? There is this contention on how digitization can help create jobs or reduce the rate of unemployment. Someone even said, yeah, Juma, what's a digitization? To wait, we need jobs, and you're talking about digitization. But I dare say that digitization is making it possible for many jobs to be created in both the public and the private sectors. The concept of digital technologies has come with what we could be seen as a virtual means of trade, put differently as e-commerce. Think of that young university student or graduate who does not have the required startup capital to rent physical space or shop to ply her trade. She is able to skip this hurdle and trade using the social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and so on. Her shop is her dormitory, hostel, car booth, or bedroom. She is able to advertise her products, get orders, and receive payments through the mobile money payment interoperability with no hassle. She has a job now and hires a delivery man to deliver the goods to the buyer, thereby creating job for the delivery man also. The volumes of trade taking place via the technologically driven medium and the number of people employed in this space could be mind-blowing. There are many people today who have turned their home kitchens into restaurants, yet no one visits them physically to eat. They advertise using digital technology, receive orders using digital technology, receive payments using digital technology, and move their incomes to bank accounts using digital technology. This is how digitization is creating jobs. Okay, so many jobs are created in the digital space that you find it difficult to even quantify. And so when people ask the question, yeah, per Juma, what's a digitization? We need to appreciate and understand that so many jobs are created in the digital space in this country. Digitization and economic growth. Some also ask the question, how is digitization related to the macroeconomy? Okay, how is it related to economic growth? Some ask, why don't you talk about economic growth, like GDP, since that is what you are known for? Yes, everything we do is geared towards enhancing economic growth and increasing the growth spurt. But quite interestingly, having the desire and wish to increase growth is one thing, and putting in place the systems to serve as vehicle for that economic takeoff is also another. We keep on doing the same things in the old-fashioned way and still expect new results. No way, it won't happen. Growing up, through my youthful days to my adulthood, I've been hearing rhetoric about how we are blessed as a country with abundant natural resources such as gold, diamond, bauxite, oil, cocoa, and so on, and still we are not developed. There have been talks about how better or at par we were with countries such as South Korea, Malaysia, and so on, but today are miles away from us in terms of development. While we complain about the hopelessness of the society we have created for ourselves, we equally must be aggressive in thinking outside the box to offer the most contemporary solutions to our long-standing challenges. The complaints and rhetoric will not do the magic. How can we have increased economic activity and growth when we do not put in place systems to make trade and commerce executed efficiently and effectively with speed? Before we implemented mobile money payments interoperability, we saw how difficult and slow it was for people to pay for services and receive money, either remittances or debt payment from one another. In an economy where velocity of money is low, economic activity is slowed down and growth is hampered. We have addressed this economic challenge with the economic solution underpinned by digital technology called the mobile money payments interoperability. It has made life easier, simpler, brought efficiency into our payment system architecture. So what we are saying here is that if you want to see how digitization is linked to economic growth and GDP growth, you need to ask yourself the basic questions. How can we spur economic growth? You spur economic growth when there is increased economic activity, people are able to pay and receive money as and when they are due. But when you have a system whereby if somebody is in Tamale and owes me, and I'm in Accra, the only means by which the person can pay is to go to the bank and deposit the money in my accounts. Well, I don't even have bank accounts. What happens? Or travel from Tamale to come to Accra to pay me. You can imagine the number of days for the person to travel and come to Accra. So until the person comes to Accra, I don't receive my money. And until I receive my money, I'm unable to invest the money for my business to grow. When it happens like that, you slow down economic activity. You solve such economic problem by bringing economic solution. And we did so with technology. We brought the mobile money payments into operability. That makes it easier and simpler for you to transfer money from one point to the other. It doesn't matter the geographic location and the distance. So you see that money goes and comes, what we call in economics the velocity of money, the rate or the frequency at which money changes hands. When money goes and comes frequently, then you're able to use that money to spur economic activity. And once economic activity increases, productivity increases. And once productivity increases, your growth also increases and you have higher GDP. So those who are asking what is the linkage between technology and GDP growth, this is how we are working to solve the problem of GDP growth with technology. And that is the understanding we need to get. Another way to look at this is also the use of electricity. In today's modern world, access to and use of electricity is so central to economic development. How can a society or an economy compete globally when it is designed in such a way that access to electricity is severely impaired by the lack of physical structure and technologies to make it easier to be accessed? We lived in a country where after 60 years of independence, a factory or worker had to stop working for hours because electricity units are used up and vendors have gone to sleep. How do you increase productivity and growth with this bedtime no electricity mentality? Today, through digital technology, we have made it possible for millions of Ghanaians to have access to electricity from an app on their phones without having to shut engines of machines. So another way that we're using technology to increase economic growth is in the area of electricity. We all know that the Ghanaian economy cannot move if you don't have electric power. And we had created a system that was so analog in design that if by the middle of the night or after 10 p.m. or so, your electricity units get used up, you have to sleep in darkness. If you were working, you have to stop working, because if you go out, the vendor who is selling the units to you is asleep and you cannot have access to electricity. Once you don't have access to electricity, you become unproductive, okay? And your GDP can never grow. You solve that problem by introducing the ECG app. And by the ECG app, those whose meters are compliant to the app are able to buy electricity credit on their phones. It doesn't matter whether the lights go off at the time that they are sleeping or in the night or during rains. And by doing so, you solve an economic problem with an economic solution underpinned by digitization or digital technology, and your growth also comes. There are those who also ask the question of the relationship between digitization and cost of credit. And I know businesses in Ghana are so much concerned about how much they are borrowing, because if the cost of credit is high, it also has consequences on the prices of goods and services that we meet on the market. We have had years of life in Ghana where the identity and traceability of people have remained problematic. This has imposed huge risk on borrowers, hence the higher risk premium placed when people seek bank loans. We are addressing this problem with the National ID and Digital Property Address System. Once the integration of the National ID and the banking databases is ready, banks will have trust and confidence in borrowers' identity and traceability. This will obviously bring down the cost of credit. So oftentimes people ask, why is it that in Ghana when you borrow, the interest is so high? But we have not sat down as a country to think about how we can get the cost of credit down. If you ask the bankers, apart from the balance sheet issues that imposes some element of cost in the price build-up on the interest rates. One key thing that is affecting us in accessing cheaper credit is the risk premium that the banks place on borrowers. Because the bank is unsure of your traceability and identity, it's not so sure that the light bill or the water bill that you are bringing to him or her at the bank to indicate that this is where you live, the bank places so much risk on you. And that risk premium is the cost of borrowing. And so if you borrow and the cost should be 5%, because of the risk premium on you, they can say, let's make it 10%, because they are not sure whether you run away or you not run away, and whether or not when you run away, they can trace you and identify you. This is a huge problem, and it is a problem that has existed with us for so many years. We have not had any solutions to this problem. What this government has decided to do, based on our experiences, our knowledge, and everything, we decided that let us get a digital property addressing system in place that brings some assurance to lenders on our traceability. Let's get a national ID card in place that brings some assurance to lenders on our identity. And once we are able to integrate these technology solutions with the databases of the banks, it becomes easier, and it brings some assurance to the lenders that indeed, when this person borrows from me, I'm sure and certain of the identity, I'm sure and certain of the traceability of the person, and therefore they will bring down the cost of borrowing through the risk premium. So that is how digitization is solving economic problems for us by making sure we get lower cost of credit. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude and take your questions by saying that we have had decades of systems that are either malfunctioned, regressive, inefficient, and not fit for modern day living. It has taken political will on the part of government to put these systems in place. The status quo benefits the few to the detriment of the many. Furthermore, there is little immediate political benefit from implementing these innovations. It takes some time for the full benefits of digitalization to become obvious to many and manifest in our lives. Politicians generally cannot afford to wait. The infrastructure we have put in place for digitalization is soft infrastructure. It is not like a road or a bridge you can point to, but it is powerful and expanded highway for development. The digitization agenda we have put in place is what is making it easy and simple to renew your national health insurance membership without having to travel to join long queues and pay bribes. It is what is making it possible for you to check whether or not the car you want to buy is insured. It is what is making it possible for you to buy for your electricity units irrespective of your location or time of the day. It is what is making it possible, and when all this is ramped up, the e-pharmacy is done, will afford you the chance to find which pharmacy has your prescribed drug and whether it is FDA approved or not with ease. It is what is making it possible for all, particularly rural settlers, to apply for government scholarship and receive same without traveling to Accra. It is what is making it possible for taxi and Okada riders to pick any customer and receive payments irrespective of the telecommunication company they have their mobile accounts with. So if we look at all that we are doing, we are making life easy and simple for people. And what we are doing is for the benefit of everybody, particularly the rural folks, the poor and the impoverished. Come to think of it, before we made scholarship application online, if you had to apply for scholarship after school and you lived in, say, Tumu, you had to travel all the way to Accra to pick scholarship application forms. A young graduate, a young senior high school graduate, what work do you have to do? You don't have any work. You don't have any money. You have to labor for months to get lorry fare to come to Accra, pick forms, and go back to your town without even the assurance that you get the scholarship. Today, we've made it easy and simpler for people, for poor people, for people who do not have connections to apply for scholarship online. They are able to write their aptitude test online. They are able to get their assessments done online. They go for interviews within their districts, and they assess or receive scholarships there and then without having to travel to Accra. This is how we're making life simple and easy for people. We're making life simple and easy for people who hitherto had to go and join long queues to renew their national health insurance membership. If you lived in a village, you had to take car and travel to the district capital to renew your national health insurance membership. You go there, you register, people extort money from you, and it takes you like 3 to 4 months before you get the renewal done. In between the time that you did the registration to the time that the renewal is done, when you are sick as a poor person, you have to pay cash. Otherwise, you could not access health facility. We have profit solution to this economic problem by using digital technology. Today, with the mobile app, we've made it easy for you to dial *929# and renew your national health insurance membership on your phone. This is how we are making life easy for people. This is how we are making sure that Ghanaians feel proud as Ghanaians and they know they are benefiting from the system and the government that they have created for themselves. I thank you very much and God bless you. I'll take your questions. Dear, make a way and the monkey town, dear, and say. So we share a normal. You were a kufu do a buying a year. I wore a bear for coins, so I beckon say digitization and digitalization. Ya per se a year no more, bema or man for a higher or more. Now a dear beer or more person or more yen. Or more to me a year. In 10 terms so now a fin so among 20 sika and Boaka baby. Now, sound of my yen, you know, normal. So we are buying now. We say, what dear about 2 or 1 general kwan or war. Now, when shall I mean or man for a year, dear one for 1 general coso. The science no man any baby, no any normal. What do I need be whom now say a dying and I say a crying and I say if you did be after see what. No waka say aban no aya ade anase wonya ade nanso eya normal eno ne fapema sesa yesi na ye de ma oman Ghana e ma oman no etimi tumpon aache de ye nyina no say ye hwe abema asetena pa aba ye hwe sa hia ni ba anase mobrowa ni ba ku ani ba asabe wote nafuom anase wo ne kuro kitu bi mu na opese wonya aban sika edical school meka scholarship no ye mane bo ema me ye de mane say wanya ka ska amfri ba bia wote a mankran a meto form so a ontimi nya scholarship ne bi nko ya fa abefo kwan so aye nhyehyeye say scholarship application no emfa ho ne ba bia wote emfa ho ne abusua ya wo wotu no se wo mobile phone anasa computer nko ade a wokoso a utimi apply for scholarship ne bi utimi twere won social wo so na ya assessment ne wo so na ya ma scholarship ni bi ba bi a wote wa abra ontutu anamo emankran ansa na wonsa aka scholarship no ya ma abrabo no ekoyie ma amanfo se edwade betimi akoso se na ebe ya se obi atowade anasa wa ya adwuma ma obi na bosomi aso esese wotua oka obetuma tua oka ntentem na wonso de aye adwuma ama eso abanfaso ama fa ne se woni wunuanom moye librafo ewo opani bi a wosini dan ewo nkran ha na amu ni samo ye adwuma ma opani no bosome so a ewo se otua moka edi bosome no pa mu ekọ ba se da toso adonunum ene ye ka se opani no ne ma me yare enti wa faka ekosirem okoduru sirem no yase ma me no yare emu ayede ti so di na otwe mensa wo ho ansa na baba na otwe mensa no beba no na bosome na so ama ekọ etra na otwe menu nyesa opani no so nim se wo a wo ye na adwuma no wo ni bank accounts enti kwan bia ne ho betima afa so asende wakatua e de ama o gisa wa bank ran ha ansa na watua woka yan so adwuma ye ya bosom ya katua no edaka so ye fewu akora ebo ye promo sansa bosom ya so nanso nipa na wa ye adwuma ama no esanse wakodi srem na woni nkra ha na wonso woni bank account nti ontimi ntua woka sa abre no na e de ahokire ene wo haw ene beto abusua so enne a ye de mobile money interoperability buy no sa wo ye adwuma ma obi mpo na ebra so se wotua woka na woni wo nchen na watu kwan akodi baabi kura na otimi fa ne mobile phone eprekope na wasende sika no na wode abro na wonso ade a opese wode sika no ye na wode aye den na wode aye ye sana ye manipa asetena mu etumpon economics bia ni ho a sene se wo ye hyehyeye amanipa asetena ma ye den etimatumpon nti kwani a omampani Akufo-Addo ene na bedi akire Bawumia ne na panfo fa so aye hyehyeye ama omanfo ho ato omo no baako no ebinum kura busa kosan bi se na digitization amokan asomfa so pa ye wo ene se ye pa adwuma ya wo se digitization etika adwuma ho asem na ye musa ye ho se ena abefo kwan aye wo mu ebeden ena wanya adwuma aye ena digitization aboa ama mrante ne mawa bawa bebre enya adwuma ya oman se sika ankobọ ka ansa na omonya sa adwuma na ye ena ababawa wawie suapon anase wawie JSS na sabi sika ni fie de beto ano so no wonya adwuma bia no anam abefo social media Instagram ne Facebook ya abanti no otimitena Instagram na wahyehyɛ no makakra bi ewa ne dem anase ne dormitory na watwitwa ho mfonyini na odi agu abefo Instagram ne Facebook so na obi ehu na wakasa me pesa ade no eno so wo abefo kwan so na nipa kro de mobile money payments interoperability no atua ne ka na nipa kro no afre motor rider bi na wakada ni naba na obegye ade no na odiko etu hu ne se saa ade no ama nipa na otwitwa mfonyini ne gu Instagram no wanya adwuma woye motor rider no so anase Uber driver no so ayeden enya adwuma woye eti digitization no kwane a air force create adwuma no eye buburuja aboa ama nkrofo adwuma atimatum no omo nso eba ya adwuma nim ama adwuma na koso na adwuma no koso nso a na omo nso afa nipa ebinum so kra busa question bi say aman no ye sika sidi na ho oden ana mre bia ekofom eti asese no na moka ho asem na eka emene ye no moka ho asem na afesu ye kodwoma eno maboa ye den asese no na moka ho asem enya digitization nanso me pese me kireo ayonkofa digitization ani abefo kwa efa so ye normal ewo ene eno maboa aye den wodwom eka emene ye ene ye sika na ho ode kofom no ewo se si ayete o man mu he sika ya jeje o man mu ha seto eno so enko ba bia intimi nso ya kohomabo eno nti ana aban etra epo na wokọ amanone kokobo bosia aban kobo bosia na obo no kwasi broni sika mu na odi abagana na nsi ho asan yeden aka ho ebra no so se esesa aban tua sa bosia na aban sesa oman Ghana cedi na odi akoto kwasi broni dollars na odi akwakotua empendodo a wo sesa cedis bebre na odi akoto dollar ketua bi no hu se dollar na ho odi ekosoro eche wo cedis no esa se wo cedi na ho odi nso akofom ti no ama no ma wo krafri amano ne ba no ne boa ye de sanse obi ko China anase Dubai a oba se subsidies bebre na odi akwakoto no makakra bi na odi aba sanse no ma na wo kraba ne boa ye de na no ma ye kraba Ghana nso dɔɔso no obansa nipa ne bedura na wacheche ebo na onya na bode no agu no ma ye nso ye kodwoma ye kokoto no so eti wo hu se ye sika na ho odi kofom eno ma ye kodwom koto nso ekosoro ye bosi aye bon so ekosoro ye busa ye ho se ade we nyina fapem eye bosi aye bo na manone dia kwan be na ye befa so a oman Ghana bosi aye bo na manone no ye bete so eno ne sese ye busa ye ho asa enkyeremu ewo mu ane adwenfofo a President Akufo-Addo aban de ba ne se ye mpese ye bo bosi abebredi a ewo se to na ejeje wo Ghana ha no ye ma to no timi ye den ekosoro na opese eto ekosoro a untimi mfa eto bebre ebegu nipa kakra bi na omutua no so ewo so opekwan bi a obebai ama emu atre na nipa dodo na atima ye den atua to se ne ebe ya nipa dodo tua na ye teku anasa sempompa ye kaboma na amato na ye den aye bebre kwan bɛn na yɛmfa so mban mu obroni ka na sɛ broaden the tax base and also tax net no ɛnte sɛ balu ɛna kwadwo men sa so benkum na yɛ ama no aso bifa ne atwe mu na emu aba dabi ɛwɔ sɛ oyɛ nhyehyɛe gu akwan so a ɛbɛba kwan ama nipa dodoɔ no atimatu ato ansa na yɛbɛyɛ national ID card no na Ghana fo a ɔmotimi ɛfile ɔmo taxes a ɔmo wɔ tax identification number ɛyɛ wɔ ha mu nkyekyɛmu ɛnan pɛ na wowɔ ɔman a mododoɔ yɛ bɛyɛ sɛ million aduasa na emu wɔ ha mu nkyekyɛmu nan pɛ ɛna wo betime atua ɛtoɔ de ama aman a ɛmfa ho ne toɔ no sɛnea wobɛsi ama ne boa yɛ din bia no sika na wobɛgye no mpo ɛntumi nya dɛn ɛnkɔ baabi a ti president Kufuor aban yɛ sɛ yɛmfa technology ɛne digitization ɛmmra sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ nipa dodoɔ a ɛtua toɔ no ɔmo mu betime ayɛ dɛn atrɛ kwan bɛn na yɛfa so a yɛyɛ saa deɛ yɛyɛ national ID ti yɛyɛ national ID no Ghana fo dodoɔ na ɛna ɛkɔtwerɛ ɔmo din nipa pepe edunum ɛne akyiripɔ apem ahanson 15.7 million prɛkopɛ na yɛyɛ saa national ID no na yɛ integrate with the tax identification number na yɛma wɔ tax identification number ɛbɛyɛ wɔ national ID number no yɛatra nipa dodoɔ a ɔmo betumi atua toɔ no mu afi wɔ ha mu nkyekyɛmu 9 akosi wɔ ha mu nkyekyɛmu aduɔwɔtwe nsia from 4% of people with tax identification numbers to 86%. Eti prɛkopɛ no sɛ yɛbɔ tontonsansan mu sɛ obi akɔ file ne tax a wobɛnya nipa dodoɔ na no mayɛ dɛn ɔmo akɔ file edi sɛ toɔ no ɛyɛ ketewa bi mpa na ama sika na yɛ dɛn adɔɔso ɛsan sɛ sika na yɛnya wɔ ɔman no mu ɛtoɔ ɛkwan so no adɔɔso nti no ɛbɛba bosia a yɛkɔ akɔbɔ wɔ amɔne no nso ayɛ dɛn aba fam yɛmma bosia bebree na bosia ne ba fam no so no ɛma yɛn sɛ subsidies bebree ɛmfa nkotua kwasi broni bosia yɛabɔ no yɛ dɛn ɛka na aba yɛ sidi na hoɔden ayɛ dɛn ɛgyina wosidi na hoɔden gyina no na nnoma akɔtɔ firi amɔne nso ne boɔ no yɛ dɛn ɛkɔ fam ɛnoma akɔtɔ firi amɔne ne boɔ no ɛkɔ fam no na ɛnoma ɛwɔ dwam so boɔ nso yɛ dɛn ɛkɔ fam to so bi pɛ sɛ wɔte kwane a digitization ɛma inflation ɛba fam ɛma nnoma totɔ yie ma Ghana fo a nkyerɛmu a ɛwɔ hɔ no wɔn a wɔn kasa wɔn nte aseɛ te sɛ yɛn nuanom NDC foɔ no wɔn nte aseɛ so da na ɛno nso na kyerɛ sɛ wɔn ni saa ahoɔden a yɛtim de bu maa no ɛsan sɛ tikasi a ɛwe adwe ɛtumi te nɔɔma ase ɛde ho solution ɛba sei no wɔn ni saa solution yi bi adeɛ baako bi nso a yɛde digitization ɛyɛ ɛboa ɔman Ghana paa ɛyɛ deɛ nkurɔfoɔ bɛka sɛ yɛkɔ bank ne yɛkɔ akɔbɔ bosia a ayɛ ana ne boɔ ɛyɛ dɛ ɛyɛ de yɛfiri aseɛ kaa saa asɛm na meyɛ abɔfra ketekete ɛfiri ɔsadwefo Kwame Nkrumah pɛn so ɛne yɛse Ghana deɛ wokɔbɔ bosia a ɛsi ho no yɛ dɛn ɛwɔ soro nanso obiara ntena ase ɛmusaa sɛ ɛbɛyɛ dɛn ɛna mekɔ bank akɔbɔ bosia a ɛsi ho no bɛyɛ dɛn ɛbɛfa fam sɛbio sɛ President Kufuor ane Ghana asɔfoɔ ɛne ahemfo nyinaa kɔgyina bank manager nim ɛde tuo si ne so koraa sɛ ma bosia si ho mmra fam a ɔma no nyɛ dɛn ɛma fam ɛwɔ sɛ wototo fapem bi wɔ wo man ne mu a bɛma bankfoɔ no adwuma a moyɛ no akɔ yi ama wɔn ansa na bosia si ho no ayɛ dɛn aba fam deɛ nti a menu mmienu yɛkɔgye bosia a esi ho no timi ba soro baako paa ne sɛ bankfoɔ no anyi yɛ ni etu ɔmo de hu kɛseɛ ɛna to yɛ so kwasi broni ka ne sɛ risk premium ehu na ɔmo de to so no nyinaa firi sɛ wokɔ bank akɔgye bosia no baabi a wote yɛ pɔtee ankasa no ɛyɛ suspect eti yɛkɔ a ne yɛkɔfa water bill ne yɛkɔfa light bill ne yɛde kɔ ɛnyɛ saa ne yɛyɛ no na water bill ne light bill deɛ obi atumi kɔ yi obi deɛ na wɔde akɔ bank hɔ eti wo deɛ no kɔ a bank manager ne nyi ni sɛ ampa baabi a wɔse wote no ɛhɔ na woyɛ dɛn woteɛ deɛ tɔ so bio wankasa a wogyina hɔ no wo nipadua no ɛne hwan Ghana ha wobɛtumi akye aberanteɛ bi agyina hɔ wobɛbie ne wallet mu no ID cards bɛsɛ nsia ɛne wɔ deɛ he na bank no wɔmfa nyɛ dɛn ɛnyɛ adwuma ɛmu deɛ he paa na ɛwɔ akwaa bi wɔ wo ho a kyerɛ sɛ ɔkyena yɛkyew ne yɛde wo nsa koraa to afidie so a ɛbɛm yi wo ho biribi aba a ɛkyerɛ sɛ yɛwo a adanse yɛwɔ so ayɛ wo din ɛwɔ so ɛne wo mfonyini ɛwɔ so sɛbi mfonyini so deɛ obi atumi fa obi mfonyini ɛkɔyɛ ade foforɔ anaa meboa obi also tumi fa obi din ɛkɔyɛ ade foforɔ nanso fingerprint ɛne yɛ iris deɛ kwasi broni sɛ obi adeɛ yɛ dɛn ɛyɛ soronko eti na wɔse yɛ pɛ kwan bi so a yɛbɛyɛ national identity system a ebema ahotoso any confidence aba system no mu enu nti de kofa digital property address system eba ye eti ukoya wo national Ghana card no ya je wo digital address eti Ghana card na be ye one source document Gideon mapa na eba bebem na ya link it with all the bank's databases ya sa de ni wi a ebema bank fo nya ahotoso se ampa nipa asumese obaje bosi a wode Ghana card ba ye no information e woso ani semfo e woso ni nyina ya ade Ghana ha nyina ya gi atum na Gideon mapa wo mu na ba bia wote enso rest assured eti na sa ehu aya fa na risk premium na bank de beto so eti bosi ansi ho no esa ya wo ha mu chichemu du a no wa ya no ha mu chichemu adu no obema na ye de aba fom oye ne sa esan se ya wo ha mu chichemu du no wa ya no ha mu chichemu adu no na wo je bosi ano na wo tua bosumi nsia na wo dwane mpa wo do ofisi wa tua bosumi nsia na wadwane o dan so afi ba ko de na wa ya de watua ne sansa bosumi nsia de na wo tua no wo shada de bo ho na de ma wo sansa na wanyi wuni saa na kwasi broni krom waye no a eti ukokwasi broni krom na akopɛ bosi a na ne nsi ho no ye den ɛwɔ fam na nsa ne nsa mo hwɛ BBC a the governor of the Bank of England ɛyɛ press conference a waye ni nyina ne sɛ na English abrochimamufo esuro sanhwɛ a ɔmo bɛto bosi a esi ho mu ama akɔ animu na wo ne bosi a nsi ho no a ɔmo so sɛ ebetima akɔsoro no ɛyɛ 0.1%. 0.1% ne kwa no omo mpese be sa ye de akosoro bio na sabe bone be na Ghana fo aye ne yete ye mamu ne yekopa bosia ne yetua wo hamu nchichemu aduonu baako adwuma be nko a no be ya wode betua sa bosia no sika bote asa tua ho nsi ho ansa na wanyamfaso enti asase ye fa kwan foforo bi so a ye betoto no ma ama sa problems ni nyina ye de akofom sa kwan no ana nyame nchaade ye wurakufu ade na ban ehunu a mo pese mo toto saa no ma no na senya technology na wode be ye saa de na wontimi nye enu nti na ye digitization no 2% who digitization no any economic development any economy any macro economy no se na esiti a se na tie ti wo santi ase we no be ka kire wo sai Bawumia or your economists and our economists at home and our digitization na waka che ni pakro se me fere o pa na nka se o me ka kire wo no e kanya se papa sansa onti ade na ye de wonti ase ye pese Ghana 40 ase said the modern day economic development no underpinned by the fourth industrial revolution would technology free ma would be bia ntimi nya den enye yi etie de ya fa to ye ho so say ye beye de be boa enchirima na mom ye nye de be ma ya win the next election ko President Kufuor is concerned about the next generation and not just the next election and nunti ana wototo enoma ebetima boa ama Ghana for ho ahare omo ebetima boa ama nkrofo adwuma timatum ebetima boa ama obibia tim de nensase de bosa ampa oman Ghana betimu no me proud as a Ghanaian isansa no ma me tukwan kokwase bodi kro so a me hu bie no me ba Ghana hanso a me hu saa no ma ne bi abrochire aba Ghana entotoye na yeye ni sesei na menim sa beboa yenyina hanso ama oman atumpon medamase.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Gideon Boako. He has done the presentation, and I doubt there's anyone there, even the NDC Hawks, who would not understand the depth of his presentation. And I pray, like Yabwatinjan said, that they will have a leadership that will think before they talk, and that they will regroup and appropriately respond to this. This is a debate and an argument that is in the national interest. So we want an appropriate response from the NDC. And when he was giving his presentation, he mentioned the effect of digitalization in reducing cost and corruption. And a perfect example of that was that the same digitalization process the NDC was pursuing, mobile money interoperability, was costing us $1.2 billion under them. And this government was able to do it for what? $4.5 million. That is the effect of digitalization on the corruption and cost reduction. We are going to take your questions. 5, I would say, at most, and because we are running with time on live stream. So if you are going to ask a question, please, you raise your hand, you identify yourself, your media house, and once I identify you, you speak. Yep. Can we get a mic? Okay, go on. Ask your question and then.
My question has to do with the usage of e-passports. Some Ghanaians in the diaspora are asking questions about that. Some commentaries by the opposition element that it is not possible, it cannot be feasible. So I want Doctor to go through that e-passport again. Doctor, tell us more.
Yes, sir. We'll take 5, and then if after that you still have any questions, we'll go on. Yeah.
Now, I put myself on 2 every year or 10. My position Ben or Honomo, a pepper by 7 to be a bank to get me, I'm out.
Madam.
My name is Mamisi Kilo from Tanzania. My question goes to the problem of the digitalization. I want to know the cost of the networking system, because most of the youth, we sell our things online and we buy more data. And now that we are going to full digitalization, what are they doing about it?
Officer, please, I have a very question, but it's short, so let me make it quick. The first one has to do with how safe it is if somebody should use digitalization or digital for history. And the second one has to do, are you ready to educate people about this digitalization? And also the last one, I want your opinion. 2024, do you think we should vote digitally? And if yes, how? Thank you.
Okay.
This is the last one, then we'll come for the second round.
But one guy on Facebook said there were 195 countries. See, unclear how they might have a
Which one is the problem?
All right. Madam Muninasi, let me say, let me say a question about e-passports. Now, I'm penny a bit here, so I can't say no. Okay. Our brother, here from the 2, asked a question about the e-passport. It's a question that was also asked after the Vice President spoke by one of the Ashesi University students. And I don't know if the media guys can play us that question and the response, because I want us to understand very well exactly what the e-passport is about. And after which I will link you to the last question and expatiate more on that. Can the media help us?
I'm Youth Government Commissioner and I'm lead for Girls in ICT Tertiary. First of all, I'd like to commend the government of Ghana for a very good job done, because as lead for Girls in ICT, I was privileged to see places like NITA, Data Protection Commission, and all of that. And I think it's some fantastic improvement ongoing. Then I would also like to ask a question. So in your speech, you were talking of the e-card that's going to serve as like an e-passport to travel around. So does that mean that the passports will be completely scrapped off? And then for like visas, how is that going to synchronize with the card? Like, is this still going to be in the passport, or is it going to be like a digital form on the Ghana card? Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I said before, we've become a member, the 79th member of the ICAO PKD community. And this will allow from by the end of the first quarter next year, airports to be able to read the card and the information on the card, or airports pretty much anywhere in the world. It doesn't mean that you don't need your physical passport to travel, right? We will get to the stage where we can have agreements. Right now, what is happening is we are linking every passport with the national ID card, right? The Ghana card number and the passport number will be linked so that your travel history is preserved. We have not yet reached, currently in terms of visas, you have ICAO 1.0 in operation. When it comes to 2.0, you will get electronic visas, but we are not there yet. And since we are not there yet, you are going to travel on your normal passports that have this thing. But you can always present your e-passport for verification. And if you are stuck anywhere in the world and you need to come back to Ghana and you don't have your manual passport and you have your e-passport, you will be allowed to board the flight as long as it is coming to Ghana. So when ICAO 2.0 it comes into operation, the visas can actually be issued electronically on the Ghana card when it comes into operation. But we are not there yet, but we are making that progress one step at a time.
All right. So that is the explanation on the e-passport. It's something more or less similar to the green card. American citizens have their passport, they have their green card. So if they are traveling from anywhere in the world to the United States, because they have the green card is accepted at the airports and they travel. The same way, our Ghana card is also going to be our e-passport, so to speak. And so if you're a Ghanaian and you find yourself anywhere in any of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO member countries, 197 of them, I'll come to the other question, 44,000 airports, and you're Ghanaian and you're holding your Ghana card and you're coming to Ghana. Once the whole arrangement is complete, next year, as the Vice President said, you'll be able to come to Ghana with just your Ghana card, even if you don't have a passport, okay? But if you're traveling from Ghana to any other country, you need to get your visa into your passport, okay? And then you can travel. But if you're coming back and you don't even have your passport with you, because you're a Ghanaian and you're coming to Ghana and you have the Ghana card, you can come to Ghana. Then also, there are some Ghanaians who are born to Ghanaian parents, whatever, they are Ghanaians, but they are also Americans and they have the American passport. These Ghanaians, because they don't have Ghanaian passport, because they are citizens in America also, they are Ghanaians all right. Anytime they are coming to Ghana, they have to go to the Ghana embassy in the US and secure Ghana visa. But this time around, if any of those people who are, Americans or British or whatever, and have British or American passport, also have the Ghana card, when they are coming to Ghana, they don't need to go to the Ghana embassy in the country before they can come. They can just show their Ghana card and then they can come to Ghana. That is what we mean by the e-passport. I've heard people trying to twist the whole thing to say that the Vice President said the Ghana card is your visa. That is not what he said. We need to be mindful of people who will always, out of political expediency and mischief, twist the words of voices of dignity in our society, like the Vice President. And we don't need to pay heed to those people. So that settles that question. The other question that somebody asked, Boadu of Wuntumi, is in respect of the fact that, yes, now we have done digital property address system. It's bringing confidence and assurance to the banking sector that the people who possess the Ghana card with the address system are people whose traceability and identity can be assured of. But his question is that if the person secures rent at one area and leaves to another place, how are we going to trace? And that is also part of the processes we are putting in place to formalize the economy, to make it in a way that if you live at one point and you move to the other point, the processes have to be such that you need to register, and like it is done in Europe and America. Because if you travel, if you are in Europe and America and you live at one place and you move to the other place, you have to be registered within the system. Your social security number must indicate that, or you must indicate within the system that you have shifted location. And once that is done and registered in the system, it will reflect automatically. So anytime your Ghana card is placed on a scanner or a machine, then it pulls out the new information for us to know that this is where you have moved to. It's a process, it's a difficult terrain, but that is the society we want to build. We are not there yet, but we want to build that society to the point where all these things will be easier for us going forward. Mamiesi Kantanka asks of the cost of data. Is that not it? Yeah, so the cost of data is something that is dear to the hearts of everybody. If you reckon, when coronavirus got to its peak, the president intervened and had discussions with the telcos and were able to bring the cost of data to the consumers. What it's important for us to know here is that the cost of data is a privately driven area, and so government policy and government engagements with the private sector and the telcos is something that can, have some consequential effects on the cost of data. But I cannot stand here to say that the cost of data will go up or come down tomorrow. It all boils down to government policy. It boils down to de-risking the financial and the business environment. Insofar as government is able to put in place measures and processes to make sure that we de-risk the business and the financial environment, to make the telcos also realize higher and increase profit, they may be able to bring down the cost of data. But it's a conversation that government and the telcos will always have to see the way to go around it. How safe are we? How ready are we to educate? And then whether or not we can vote digitally. I think ultimately, the goal is to make sure that we get to where others have gotten to. Even today, in some of our universities, they vote electronically. Okay, if you travel to some advanced countries, they vote electronically. So it is not something we cannot do. We are lagging behind so much, and that is why we need to quicken our steps to get there. And that is why the president and the vice president and this government are so keen on making sure that we get the pieces of the jigsaw together so that we can have a proper takeoff. And I'm sure once we're able to put these bits and pieces together, we'll be able to get to that place. I can say you are safe when you're transferring your money. Our cyber security laws are tight, and we're making sure that the data and the transfers and the transactions that we do online are highly protected. So that assurance is also there. As for the education, yes, we are ready to educate, okay? And that is why we are here today, to make sure that we bring the conversation to the doorstep of the people and make sure people get educated. Then the last question, Raymond asked that somebody says there are 193 countries. So what are we talking about? 197 countries. There are not 193, 195 countries. That is not the case. So what is happening is that we have about 193 member states of the UN, plus 2 non-member observer states. And of the Holy Vatican, it is Holy Vatican and Palestine are also classified as countries. So 193 plus 2 outstanding members of the UN plus Holy Vatican and then Palestine If you add everything together, you get 197. That is why, if you check, I can give you some size. If you check the New York Times posted something, and they said that the New York Times opened tomorrow with an exclusive viewing of Isdalin's conference of the trees, a living installation of 197 trees and plants to represent the 197 countries that we have. The other example, the University of Manchester also tweeted some time ago, today, Pro Brian Cox opened the COP26 ceremony in Glasgow with a film named Inconceivably Valuable, bringing together over 30,000 delegates from 197 countries. So those who are writing on social media that the Vice President said 197 countries, but there are 195 countries, those people are talking out of, I wouldn't say ignorance or illiteracy, but exactly, they just don't understand what they are saying. And when I hear top brass members of the NDC saying the same thing, and you know, there's a deliberate attempt to come at the Vice President every time he speaks to say that, oh, he lied and those kind of, and they are throwing that into the eyes of the people. They just don't understand what is happening. We don't have 195 countries. We have 197 countries. It is lack of literacy on their part to say that there are 195 countries. Thank you.
Right. All right. We'll take one last from the lady. One last one. Yes. Yes. Just one. We are closing.
So when you say, I have a say a free affair about the signal, about Frebia, a bewono, Musume ba contemno, a bemano national ID number, only about Frano or sa. It yet to me finance and 12 years so any biometrics, Sabe na biometrics name for me. Until a beman number not all right, by all people so near their manner of floor. Sa number no na bibia obey biano, or the baye. Odi enfie numero kra, the biometrics that form no. Near the Nessa ato afidie so atwetwe ne biometrics no na ya mano card no a national ID card no ti sa abofra no sa card no ene ne unique number wo de betena wiase na kopem so be free asase so na eba ne sa eboa esan se betima aboa kra ma car afibia e beto aba na ya boda ro se mafro ma di mfie du watwe nyina mo nko register ne nyina afi ho esan se bra e be wo e be ma sa card no anasa number no frida e be wo consider abedi mfiedu udi mfiedu watwe na be show aban computer so sa abofra we wadi mfiedu watwe quickly na abaya pushi information dia come electoral commission for eti e ba beto aba enya afa ne ya be sei sika abodawro sa mo madi mfiedu watwe o metwero mudi na no so MPP ni NDC for na mo kontoka wa secondary school mu na sa choka ni nyina de afi ho Ghana fofra ya chichire no sei na tie na esa sa ya ban hyehye yenti no Ministry of Health birth and death registry any san ko ne ba ni nyina aka ho bi na ye san hyehye ya ban hyehye o mo nyina so e ka ban no ho enti anya ade a akwansidie bia e wo ho e hyehye ya atoto ho no ma nyina awie a bibia ne be ma na ko computer so e be boa o man no ama sika ye sign no bebre ade ye voter registration no afi ho e be san ma NDC ni MPP for choka ye be to aba ye be registration na ye bo nkrofo de ye twa nkrofo sika no ukwakwase broni krom a unhu saa ntokwa ne bi wo ho unhu saa eka hunu ne bi wo ho saa sika no ye betim de ya de foforo enti sa unhu saa wakwase broni krom na ye wo fe na wo benya bi aba wo Ghana ha de a saa ntotoye no ana ye wura kufu ado ani na bedi akire ba wo mia ne na pamfo ede abefo kwan ya fe na digitization any technology eye ede amaye ama oman Ghana nso abeye krabehwe na abeye nhweso de ama hodo nso a aka. It is a new Ghana. It is abroche aba Ghana oman na ya chichire sisia e de ama Ghana for.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. This is the end of the program, and we are praying that the NDC would display some further ignorance to give us the opportunity to give further explanation. Thank you and enjoy your day.